What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today, trying to work on the lighting of the videos. I got a lot of comments on that yesterday, but wanted to talk a little bit more on the Michigan situation, and I guess just like a head coaching candidate that I feel like um, deserves a look as one of the best candidates out there for next offseason. I had done a video, I believe that was yesterday, talking about like the Michigan situation with Jim Harbaugh, how I feel like there's not a whole lot of downside to letting go of him right now, even before the offseason arrives. But if the more likely scenario is if he does go, that it's going to be this offseason if he gets bought out. And then if Michigan tries to replace him, I kind of like the idea of PJ Fleck, the Minnesota head coach. Similar to my previous videos, just outline kind of my three reasons for it, and just why I think he would be one of the best candidates for the job if it were to open. Now, Michigan's still very much a destination job. The buyout for Jim Harbaugh is set around $5 million, which is not bad considering the buyout of other head coaches, i.e. like Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. I believe that's north of $40 million. James Franklin at Penn State, I talked about yesterday, around $39 million. If they were to get bought out like right now or by the end of the season. So PJ Fleck is off to an up and down start this season. Minnesota's 1-2. I think they're starting to get back on track a little bit. It's a weird year, and even with Michigan, I didn't put a whole lot of stock into some of their performances I think that's something that we should pay attention to. Their loss to Maryland last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever that, October 30th, 45-44. That easily could have gone either way. I don't think that they were fully prepared for Michigan. So again, I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into that loss. Even though it seems weird to say, oh, let's replace Jim Harbaugh with the one head coach he's beaten this year. I believe it would actually make a lot of sense. Maryland looked really, really good. Really good against what's that, Northwestern? No, not Northwestern. Excuse me, Penn State last weekend. Tulia Tungavailoa looks like a gem find for Mike Loxley. I do agree on that. Austin, Luke Fickell would be a solid head coaching candidate as well. And I'll get into kind of why I would prefer PJ Fleck over Luke Fickell. And then Minnesota looked really good again last weekend against Illinois. Jury's still out on how good Illinois actually is, but it's nice to see Illinois actually getting. Also agree with that, Luke Fickell over Tom Herman. It's something where Minnesota's probably going to be on an uphill climb for the rest of the season. They have a very favorable schedule coming their way. They get Iowa, which again, jury's still out on how good Iowa is next weekend, November 13th. November 14th, I believe. And then they get Purdue before they have to face Wisconsin and Northwestern. They're two ranked teams on the schedule as it stands this week. So I think Minnesota can still be a ranked team by season's end. Definitely don't count them out yet. The offense still looking really good, averaging about 36.5 points per game. Good for top 35 in the FBS. Now, the main thing I wanted to get into here with PJ Fleck's performance at Minnesota. It's similar to what he did at Western Michigan, similar to what Matt Rule did at Baylor. Took over kind of a mid-tier Power 5 job, low to mid-tier Power 5 job, and really elevated that program to be one of the better, I would say, non-blue bloods or non-power programs in the country. Minnesota is excelling in a lot of facets too. It's not just, an experienced, one good team that they're getting back. Last year, they were an 11-win team, one of the better stories in college football. And this is a weird year, but I think Minnesota can still be one of the better teams in the Big Ten. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. And then PJ Fleck had taken over a team that, see if I can go back here. But PJ Fleck had taken over a team that was a middling. You would expect Minnesota to be anywhere between 5 and 8 wins every single season. They were 7-6 his first year. That up to 11-2. They're 1-2 right now, but we'll see how that trends from here on out. They finished the season last year ranked 10th in the country, had it ranking as high as number 7 in the AP poll, I believe number 6 in the coaches poll. When PJ Fleck took over in 2017, 5-7 team, so even more of an uphill climb from there. He took it over from Tracy Claeys, who then took it over from Jerry Kill. Again, Minnesota have a 9-win team in 2016 before PJ Fleck came in and kind of changed the course of the program. But like I said, before then, they were more of like I would say 6 or 8 win program. And looks like PJ Fleck's going to take that to being maybe a 10 or 11 win program every year. We'll see how that trends. Now, I want to get into the second facet of why I really like the idea of Minnesota going with PJ Fleck. I mean, beyond him already being in the Big Ten with Michigan, as he's Minnesota's head coach right now, I think that he knows the landscape of the Big Ten pretty well. Even before he was Minnesota's head coach, he was in the same state as the Wolverines when he was Western Michigan's head coach. He's still one of the younger head coaches out there. I firmly believe he's a rising star in the college football coaching ranks, and someone's going to scoop him up. Why I would say go with someone like Fleck over a group of 5 candidate. Again, Luke Fickell's a commonly pitched name. I'm pretty sure Coastal Carolina's head coach is going to start getting a lot. Is it Jamie Chadwell? Jamie Chadwell is going to start getting a lot of momentum, getting a Power 5 job too, among a number of other candidates out there. Kalani Sitake might start getting some hype as well after BYU's having a really, really big season. But it's rare that you're going to get a coach like PJ Fleck that's had the proven experience, that's in the same conference as you, where you have a cheap buyout. And not only that, and I'll get into the final point, which I always do recruiting last, someone that's familiar with success in all aspects of that Power 5 conference, making a team work on the field, making sure the results are good on the recruiting trail, staffing the program well. Minnesota was a big picking ground for a lot of big Power 5 conferences for assistants last year. And I think that's going to continue to be the case as long as PJ Fleck is there. So besides the familiarity and just the smooth transition, which I know a lot of people are going to argue with that point compared to some of the other head coaching options out there, I think it's one where Michigan needs their next hire to be about as sure of a hire as they can get after they invested so much into getting Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's he's not the youngest head coach in the world, but he's not the oldest. Like I said, it seemed like a pretty surefire hire, but PJ Fleck's a guy that's had no problem beating his rivals in the past. And that's also a big facet to Michigan is, Harbaugh's lack of success against Michigan State and Ohio State. So I think that could be another driving force. But the last big point I wanted to make on why Fleck should be hired at Michigan is the results on the recruiting trail. I do put a lot of stock into results on the recruiting trail, especially when you're trying to get a program like Minnesota up and coming. Those results have to be there for the longevity of the program. And the recruiting results have been pretty sensational. Even dating back to his time at Western Michigan, PJ Fleck was a pretty good recruiter. Minnesota's done nothing but trend upwards in their national class rankings since PJ Fleck took over. I mean, you were talking about a program that was anywhere between like 40 and 60 in the national class rankings, even through the early part of Fleck's tenure, to one that's consistently in contention for a top 25 class, which is huge when you're competing with programs like Ohio State, like Michigan, like Penn State. And you have to, not only that, but you really have to develop your talent well, because you still got other programs out there like the Northwesterns, like I know there's no chance Urban would go to Michigan. But I think that there's other programs out there, Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, that are really good at developing talent, aren't necessarily going to get those top 25 classes. So, Minnesota's going to have to put in some good work to find their own niche. But again, 2021 class currently ranks number 5 in the Big Ten, number 23 in the nation. They're looking pretty good. I got a few blue chips in there. I believe 4 blue chip commits, which is pretty good. They're looking pretty solid ahead of the early signing period. And then even the 2022 class, they only have 1 commit right now, but it's 1 chip. It looks like they could have a few on the way. That 1 blue chip is still good enough to rank them inside the top 30 in the nation and inside the top half of the Big Ten. So, Michigan's results on the recruiting trail for 2022 probably aren't looking, or at least are looking pretty shaky with the coaching instability. And if you bring in a guy that is after a lot of the same targets, at least a lot of the 4 stars maybe, or more highly touted 3 stars as Michigan, there could be a lot of traction right out of the gates. And I think just all around, if you're looking at the results on the recruiting trail, Fleck could do some really, really special things at Michigan. Take what Harbaugh's done already a good job on the recruiting trail, usually within the top 10 or top 15 in the national class rankings, and turn them into a consistent top 5. Because Ohio State's been sitting up there with the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world in terms of having the contender for the top class in the country each cycle from about 2019 through 2022 right now. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I thought that it was something that I wanted to get my take on. I know there's going to be a lot of people disagreeing with me saying that PJ Fleck is a good option for Michigan. There's going to be a lot of coaching candidates out there if Harbaugh does continue to struggle and Michigan does let go of him, whether it be this season or heading into next offseason. So anyway, that is pretty much it. So yeah.